Arsenal have yet another tough game at the weekend, being against champions Manchester City away at the Etihad. Now, with certain players out, Arsenal are definitely looking weaker than they possibly could be. And I think it is finally time to give Riccardo Calafiori his full debut from the start, as I think he can unlock defences in different ways. In this video, we're going to go through why Calafiori's cameo against Atalanta was very impressive and why he should be considered for the starting lineup in the next coming games. So let's get into it. Now, I will say straight away that I do think Jurrien Timber, who's been playing in left back for Arsenal, has been incredible in the last few games, especially against Tottenham. I also do think it is worth saying that Arsenal have been playing a very defensive system where they have been playing more or less for a draw or a chance where they can score one goal, maybe a few chances a game, and haven't exactly been dominating games like they used to. This has happened by a combination of injuries at a bad time, and also Arsenal are in a really strict week where they've got many games they have to care about. So relying on what the best thing apart the squad is, the defense, is definitely not a bad thing at all, and if you're getting results, I really don't think it's the end of the world. Now, the reason why I mention this is because Jurrien Timber is one of them big reasons. Against Tottenham specifically, but even against Atalanta, he was very much in the defensive line and was very good at getting out at certain times, going down the wing, more importantly in the Spurs game, and also making them attacking runs to help the left hand side, which I do think is improving with him there. However, Timber is naturally more defensive than someone like Calafiori, and Timber is probably playing his third best position in left back, where he is better in right back and centre back. Now, something I think that is very important about Calafiori is he definitely offers Arsenal something different. By all the games I've seen for him in the last few months, it is clear that he has natural talent that a lot of players in his position do not have. His ability to drive with the ball from deep and also being a very physical, aggressive player, despite also being a very solid defender, is something that you don't see too often. Now, against Atalanta, Arsenal did mostly defend all game, and Atalanta didn't have many chances other than, of course, that brilliant penalty save by David Raya. This was another game where Arsenal really limited the other team to having shots from just outside the box, but they didn't really get in and create too much. And you could argue Arsenal did create 2 or 3 key chances, where on a good day they definitely put them away, but obviously their clinical edge is lacking a little bit. Now, something that Timber does in this team is obviously he is very good at inverted. He comes into the middle and does help Partey, specifically before Rice was back, get into them positions and use the legs in there. Now, Calafiori does do the same things. Against Atalanta, he was coming into the middle where Rice was putting the ball off to him, and he was just making runs where it was harder to man mark him from the Atalanta perspective, because he's moving into the centre but also going up that left wing, making it hard and always having an opportunity to put the ball over the top for him. Now, something I really liked is how his movement in midfield happened. I really felt like he worked well with people like Jorginho, and Jorginho obviously came on with him as well, as they crossed over a lot, and Calafiori doesn't mind going on the right side of the defence to cross over into the left side. This was given Arsenal a lot more opportunities to at least keep the ball when Atalanta were pressing them very hard, even late on into the game, and it gave Jorginho more options where you don't need someone really close to him all the time, and you can have someone a little bit more distant making them good runs in midfield. Now, the reason why I think also Calafiori in this game added something to Arsenal is that they did need a little bit of attacking due diligence. There was obviously they are defending, they would prefer a 0-0 than obviously a loss, but Arsenal in the back of their minds are still wanting to win these games. And when you're defending like you are with Arsenal in a low block or even in a mid block, you need some players that are going to get the ball out for you and at least try and create stuff going forward. Sometimes it's a bit of risk and reward, which I think makes sense why Calafiori isn't starting at the moment. But later on into games when it's still 0-0, it's still quite cagey, I think it is fair enough to give Calafiori that reward because he will take them risks. Now, here is an example of one of the risks that he takes. In this position, I do not think any other Arsenal left back would be doing this. He picks the ball onto the run and just goes on a mazy run with it. He has a brilliant dribbling ability where he goes past the second player in midfield and just brings the ball forward for Arsenal. He ends up passing the ball off to Trossard when 4 players come into him, which obviously makes sense. And here the annoying thing is that we don't really have that clinical striker that is going to be on the last man in this situation. Someone like Sterling coming more centrally here and getting in behind may be worth doing, because Havertz and Trossard both come short in order to receive the ball. When you've got Calafiori making these runs, he can definitely slip it into some people going through, because he's creating that space with them, so many players having to come towards him, which is definitely a thing that Arsenal can use to get at teams in defensive transitions. Another thing I do think was very important in this game, I'm not saying Timber did this bad because I don't think he did at all, it's just that Calafiori definitely feels like he has a point to prove, and he's not necessarily going to always make the right decisions defensively. I do think he is a bit over aggressive, which comes with his age and his experience, but going forward he definitely seems a lot more wanting to create things and let things happen, a lot more than Timber, who was getting into the right positions against Tottenham but often kept making the wrong decision when it actually got got into the final third, which obviously will get better when he does that more. But as someone like him, who's more of a defender, passing player, it's definitely not really the thing he wants to do. And I do think some of Arsenal's interchanges in the Atalanta game were actually very interesting. I don't think Arsenal were incredibly poor. I know people are going to say we were boring, which we were, but I actually think the longer the game went on, we actually looked quite good with some new systems that were being played. I mean, here you see Sterling comes deeper to pick the ball up. Calafiori is in that inverted section in midfield, with Gabriel obviously going out wide and Jorginho and Rice being further deeper. And even Calafiori's movements are very encouraging. He allows Sterling to receive the ball and make that run, and he goes and helps him with the little run in between the lines, where he can also pass the ball out wide to Kai Havertz, who's picked up that position. This allows Martinelli to get into an inside forward position, and Calafiori knows that he kind of hasn't helped Havertz here, so he goes to help him after, helping Arsenal get the ball out. Now here, of course, I want Calafiori to be a little bit more confident, try and put a ball in here in between the lines between Martinelli and Trossard, and Arsenal arguably have a 2-on-2 there where they could get at the defenders. Unfortunately here he goes backwards, but I do like that original movement, and I think that is very encouraging from the output. And I do think Calafiori is an option that Arsenal should use because he is something that's different to Timber. Timber is someone that you can put in who's going to be very defensively solid, is going to make good runs and good passing movements, which we have seen to Martinelli down the left. But Calafiori is someone that if you are getting intensely man-marked the whole game, I think he genuinely is a better option with Arsenal in possession. Some of his movements in midfield are very different to what you see a lot of players do, and honestly I think in the period that Arsenal are in right now, difference is actually makes them a lot better. Like even his movements that he does here, they don't really look like a left back. Is he really inverting? He's come inside, which we did see Timber do a lot as well, and he's just making it hard for the players to track him. He comes inside here, Jorginho passes the ball back, and then Saliba tries to make a run, and Calafiori's always there trying to help. He passes it forward and then tries to make a run behind Havertz into that space, which obviously in the end doesn't happen. This constant wanting to move into these spaces and get in behind, I think is only going to make him even better and make the team more fluid. And the reason why I bring all of this up is because Arsenal are playing Man City this weekend. Now I still think Timber has to play. Like I said, the defensive attributes have to be considered, and maybe you could argue about playing him in right back with Ben White, who I think has been on and off, especially going forward when you need Arsenal to really take their chances going forward when we're not going to have as much per game as we used to. But there is definitely an outside chance you play Timber in right back and Calafiori left back, because Timber is undoubtedly, I think, the best one-on-one defender out of any of these players and can easily defend that right-sided space. And Calafiori might not have that, which is an issue I think for the Man City game if they're going to attack you in certain ways. But I do think Calafiori can give Arsenal some attacking threat if they are in that low block to get up the pitch. Something that's interesting this year is that City have been giving up a lot of positions within the box and defensive transition. When they played Brentford definitely did their direct approach, but also did a lot of micromanagement in midfield to get to be able to do this direct approach in the final third. I do think Arsenal will set up in a kind of way like that, and Calafiori is very intense, which can definitely help them in certain aspects of the game to try and have more control on the ball. And if he's going to make consistent runs and be hard to mark in a man-to-man press, I do think it can be very important. Now the problem is I think he's more effective when Arsenal have the ball when they don't, and will they have the ball that much against Man City? Probably not, you have to think. So maybe he is someone that comes on later on in the game like Raheem Sterling, who I also think could be a valuable option and be given minutes. And while game state is obviously a very important thing, just looking at the stats, Calafiori made 2 passes into the final third and only made 14 touches coming off the bench for 17 minutes against Atalanta, while Timber only made 3 the whole game. He made 10 out of 10 accurate passes, and in his average position, which you can say depends on how long he played comparatively to Timber, he is a little bit further forward, mostly operating in the same sort of role in that inverted sort of left back where they keep changing and moving around. But I do think Calafiori is more set up to be a bit more versatile in his movements. Now I do think Timber was brilliant against Tottenham, but in other games before that we have seen him being a bit frigid with his movement and be quite one-dimensional in where he wants to go and where he wants to pick up the ball. I also think Calafiori being left-footed may help with these angles, but I do agree that Timber is completely amazing at every angle. He seems to be his best thing. He's so agile at putting on his left or right foot. Now overall, this video isn't to say Calafiori should start against City, but I do think he can be an option or could be in contention to start that game, and Timber playing him right back. I do think Calafiori is a matter of time before he breaks into the team. I think he offers so much different that you will see a lot of other players bring, and if he is fit for the games coming up, such as the Leicester's, Southamptons, even maybe the PSGs, I can expect him to start for Arsenal, where you might see some other players come out. Let me know what you think about Calafiori and what you've seen so far, because I would love to see more of him. I think he's impressed a lot when he's come on in these games, and I think it's time for Arteta to pull the plug on him a little bit. Let me know what you guys think about Calafiori, and if you like this video, go and watch my video yesterday where I talked about David Raya, and if not, I'll see you in the next one.